welcome back to my channel. My name is Cynthia and today I'm going to do another segment on usable psychology, psychological knowledge that you can use. Today's piece of psychology that we're going to be discussing is called the Pygmalion effect. It is basically a psychological phenomenon where high expectations lead to high performance in a given area. Just a little background on the name Pygmalion and where it came from. It came from Greek mythology, where there was a sculptor named Pygmalion who sculpted his perfect partner. And he wished so badly that his sculpture would come to life that the god Aphrodite granted his wish and brought his sculpture to life. This effect was first discovered by Dr. Robert Rosenthal. I'm going to put his picture here. He was in charge of a science laboratory that was carrying out experiments on rats. So one night he comes into the laboratory and separates the rats into two groups. He labeled one group as the smart rats and the second group as the dull rats. Excuse me. He later asked his students to prepare the rats for a maze competition. Now, an interesting thing happened. The rats that were labeled smart performed exceptionally well in the maze competition, and those that were labeled as dull, excuse me, did not perform very well. He later discovered that since the kids that were given the smart rats knew that the rats were smart, they pushed the rats to perform harder. They pushed them to prepare more for the competition. They gave them more complex mazes to run through in preparation for the competition. And the students that got the dull rats, because they knew that the rats were dull, did not put in a lot of energy in preparing them for the competition, which led their rats to not perform very well. So when he published this study in a paper in the National Journal, in his last statement, he wrote that if this could happen to rats, I wonder what could happen to human beings. So later, he was requested to come to a certain school and carry out an experiment there. So in the school, he told the teachers that he had developed an IQ test that had the capacity to sieve out the academic bloomers and those that would not perform very well through the academic year. So he gave the students the test, and at the end of the test, he provided the teachers with a list of names of the academic bloomers or those that he thought that were going to perform very highly throughout the academic year. So he came back a year later and he found that the students that he had labeled as the academic bloomers had performed exceptionally well, just like the rats that he had labeled as smart. And the students that he had pointed out that, well, they will not really be academic bloomers had not performed well. So the teachers were shocked and asked him, how did you know that these students would become academic bloomers? And he said, well, I actually didn't know, and I even actually provided you a list of random student names. So isn't that fascinating? And when I came across this effect, it made me realize how mindful we have to be with the labels and expectations, that we have for the people around us. And the funny thing is that in the studies that Dr. Rosenthal carried out, of course, because they are rats, they didn't know that they had been labeled smart or dull, or even the students were not told that you are in the group of those that are going to be the academic bloomers, or you are in the group of those that will probably not perform very well throughout the year. So the subjects didn't know their labels, but the researchers and the teachers knew these labels. So it kind of throws light to the fact that, yes, the mindsets we have of ourselves can impact our capacity to grow. But how about the mindsets or these labels and expectations we have on those around us? How can they impact their growth, or how are these labels and expectations detrimental to their development? Excuse me. So I realized that this is quite a fascinating effect to know and its impacts in the real world. For example, there's so many different relationships that we have, whether it be teacher student, manager subordinate, uh, parent child, and in the real world these labels are thrown out there, they are everywhere, right? You grow up basically knowing the label that your family or that your teacher or that your boss has put on you. You are told that you are not beautiful, or you are not smart, or you are not a natural born leader, or a woman can't do this, or you are handsome, you are smart, you're very good at math, you can do anything you set your mind to. It makes you realize that these expectations and labels we put on people, they actually impact them. Because if you are a teacher and you have labeled a student as a high performer, as smart, this student is going to feel very smart. They're going to feel like they're a high performer because of all of these labels that you've put on them. And so they'll find themselves putting in more work, pushing themselves harder to live up to their expectations that you have of them, right? And so they'll put in more hours of work. You'll probably even give them more complex tasks, more complex quizzes to help them, harness their power and the skills that they have, which will later actually make them become high performers, which will make them become good at what it is that they're doing. And at the end of the day, it reaffirms or confirms what the your initial thoughts on them, that yes, they are smart. And then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, that means we need to be very mindful of the labels that we put out there to on the different people in our lives. I want to give an example. Let me bring it closer to the corporate world, because this study was not just done on the rats and the students. So many studies around this effect have been done. Over 500 studies have been done on this effect in the military, in the corporate world. So let me just give an example of the corporate world. Imagine you're a manager and you have a group of subordinates that you manage. And you know, of course, that you have put different labels on your different subordinates. Some are high performers, some are not really actually high achievers, and they're struggling in different aspects of their work. And in most cases, the subordinates know, they know what you think of them. You have carried out assessments on them, and you probably had meetings where you've told them you are this, you are that. And so they know. And because they know, the high performers are going to push themselves harder, they're going to put in extra hours of work, they're going to probably even study more to develop more skills to help them achieve more and acquire more in their workplace, which will reaffirm your initial thoughts about them, that they're actually high performers. And it's a cycle, self-fulfilling prophecy. Sorry. Let me also give an example of, say, for example, in a family or a social setting. As a child, you are labeled as the black sheep of the family. And because you are labeled as the black sheep, not people didn't have very high expectations of you and how you would turn up in life or even in your school life. So because you knew that, you didn't push yourself to try and prove them wrong. You would think that, well, they already think I can't bring anything to the table, so why try? Which became very detrimental to your life, right? Which is the opposite of, say, for example, the children who were raised up being told you are very good at this, you're going to become this, you have really high skills in this particular area. So you would push yourself, because these people have these high expectations of you, push yourself, try and prove them right, try to live up to their expectations, which in turn led you to actually become those things that they initially thought of you. And it also became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this effect is quite powerful if you think about it, especially in the power dynamics of you are at a higher level in that relationship with someone, your labels on them and your expectations for them really impact them. So you have to be mindful of the labels and the expectations you have for them. And the funny thing is that when you believe that someone is very capable of something, even how you show up, the support you give them is different from the support you give someone that you don't think much of. The person that you think has very good attributes, very high potential, even when they fail, you will still talk to them in a loving manner. You will still give them that support of, yes, you failed here, but we can do this and this. We can put in more hours, we can put in more time, and be there for them because you believe in their potential, which makes them really become high performers in life. So this effect, once you read more on it, you realize that you have to be mindful of the labels you put on people, and even those people that you think that are not performing well, or you put negative labels on them, you need to start thinking of them differently and start thinking of how you want to show up, how the kind of support you want to give them, and sort of get out of the fixed mindset of the either A or B. I actually read a book on mindsets that I liked. It's called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. I'm going to put it here. And in the book, she talks about two major mindsets, one being the fixed mindset and the second being the growth mindset. And in the fixed mindset, she says, this is a kind of person, for example, you were raised up being told you're very good at math, you're very good at basketball, you can't fail at anything you do. So it puts you in sort of like if you are a person with a fixed mindset, so if you end up doing a subject and you fail at it, you will think it's not for you, because you know these labels are put on you. You grew up knowing that I'm good at every single thing that I do, so if this fails, it's probably not meant for me, right? Even how you show up in your relationship is affected, because a person with a fixed mindset, they believe that once I meet someone, once I'm in a relationship with a person, it has to work out on the onset. And you forget that it can't be rainbows and unicorns. So when you find yourself in a relationship and it's hard, you can't seem to make it work, you just automatically drop it because you think in everything that you do, you succeed. Things come easy to you, you are smart. So if you are having some friction, tension there, it's not meant for you. But in contrast, a person with a growth mindset believes that with practice, effort, experience, you can reach your highest potential. You can continue to grow. You know that it's a learning curve. You can move from point A to point B to point C and push yourself. So a person with a growth mindset, in whichever relationship, be it the teacher, be it the parent, be it the manager, if you have a growth mindset, you will not give negative labels. You will not put negative labels on the people around you. Instead, you look at them as learners. Yes, they're thriving in this area, but they're struggling in this area, but it's just a matter of giving them the support that they need and supporting them and pushing them. And with effort and a lot of practice, they will harness those skills and they will start seeing an improvement in that area of their life. So I bring in mindset because I feel like it plays a lot with this effect. Because if you have a fixed mindset, once you label someone as, well, you're not really good at math, well, you're not really good at basketball, well, you're not actually a natural born leader. Once you're stuck in that fixed mindset, invariably these people are going to fail, because it will affect how you show up, in the support you give them, in the encouragement you give them, which will cause their performance to plummet. And so we need to be very mindful of the labels and the expectations that we have on those around us, because it can either make them or break them. It can be very detrimental to their performance or lead to their growth. So when I came across this this effect, it made me want to understand it more. It made me kind of question, like, what are the kind of labels I've been putting on people around me, and how can I see them differently? How can I support them? Because we are all learners, right? And as humans, we're incredible in the sense that we can do virtually anything that we put our minds to. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you will become a genius in math all of a sudden, or good at basketball, or a natural born leader. I don't think that is the best application of the knowledge of this effect. But I believe the best application for it is labeling people as a learner other than a negative label, because you start seeing them as someone who has the potential to get better at what it is that they're doing. For example, if you set a goal to become better at storytelling in the beginning of the year, and you continuously made strides to ensure that you practice more and more, you seek for help, you seek for assistance where you need it, in the 8th month of the year, you will look back and see the progress that you have made, the incremental progress that you made. But an outsider, from their vantage point, it will seem like a quantum leap. But you know it's not a quantum leap, because you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the hours of work, and you became better. So I implore you to read more on this effect, because I believe it has the power to change the relationships of those around you, especially young children, because I believe that young children are very impressionable. So once you label a child as, oh, well, you're not really good at math, girls can't do this, that's work for boys, or you cannot be a leader, you're more of a follower. Children are very impressionable, so you have to be mindful of that fact, especially when you're in that power dynamic of where you hold the higher position in that relationship. You have to be very mindful of the labels and the expectations you have on these little ones. And actually, in any relationship, be it manager, subordinate, boss, subordinate, parent child, teacher student, really any. And you as a person, even if, for example, the label the example I made on the black sheep of the family, even if you are labeled those things, know that you have in you the power to be whoever you want to become. And even if those labels are put on you as a child, you still hold the power to take back the power and change that storyline to the story that you see yourself in, because you are the main character in your life. So I just want to encourage you to read more on this effect and see how you can apply it to your life, to your relationship, the different relationships you are in, and know that we need to change our mindsets from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, where even when we fail, we know that we can always get better by practice and putting in more effort. Even when you don't get that job, it doesn't mean that you're not capable or you don't have the skills. You can always ensure that you put in the time and the effort and become better at it. So I just want to implore you to read the book Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. It's very, very good. And I implore you also to do more research on the Pygmalion effect and see how you can bring it to your real life and apply it in the areas, in the different facets of your life, really. So I just want to say that we are very different people with different opinions, with different takes on things. So I'll be very interested to know your take on the Pygmalion effect down in the comment box below. So don't be shy to let me know what you think. We can have an interesting conversation around the topic. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It will really mean a lot to me. And also don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you are notified every single time I upload. And please like the video as well so that others can see it. Thank you very much for watching today. Have a nice day, have a nice night, have a good night, good morning, whatever time you're watching this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.